We are pleased to have Bobby Kempfer, an SE located in North Carolina. Bobby is going to discuss how to create custom applications and site objects for use with the URL filtering blade within a policy. Now, purpose of this is this may help allowing access to some resources on a website, but maybe not everything that you want a user to access. So with that, Bobby's going to give you a quick presentation and a nice demo to show you guys how to do this. Bobby, take it away.
Thank you, Kyle, and good morning, everybody. Again, as Kyle said, my name is Bobby Kempfer, a security engineer for Eastern North Carolina and parts of Central North Carolina now. So again, we're going to be doing custom application site objects. The agenda will be, I'm going to give you a couple of use cases up front to kind of set the stage for what comes next. And then I'm going to give you a quick overview of the application site and site object, and then some requirements, the best practices, and then we'll jump into a demonstration showing the policies, the application site objects, etc. So a couple of use cases, and these are two customers of mine that came to me requesting these particular access rules. So a school system wanted to blocks access to all media streams, but they wanted to allow access to certain videos for educational purposes. Another company came to me, they block a website, but they wanted to allow access to just a specific web page, to one page on that site. So that got me to thinking having two customers come to me in less than a month would be a good topic to discuss. So quick overview. So custom application site objects allow administrators to create their own custom applications sites that you can use in your policies or your TLS inspection rules. Custom application site objects are a list of URLs. You can define these as regular expressions or normal URLs. For this demonstration, I did normal URLs. You cannot mix a regex and normal URL in the same object. So it's one or the other. If you're not using regex, all characters are literal. So whatever you type in is what it's going to look for, with the exception of the wildcard character. And the only wildcard character on normal URLs is the asterisk. If you are using regex, it's highly recommended to use a regex helper to build the regex, unless you are extremely familiar with creating regex expressions, just because if you overcomplicate it, it can bog down the gateway. So use those very, very carefully. So some best practices, it kind of goes into what I was just saying, make it as simple as possible. Avoid using a lot of wildcards. There's obvious reasons you don't want to use a whole bunch of wildcards. Just opens yourself up to some attacks if you use them in the wrong way. Do not use the HTTP or HTTPS in the URL definition. And do not use the complex regex patterns when maybe multiple simpler expressions will work. And for example, I showed down here, you can take that more complex one and replace it with 4 much simpler ones. And that's it for the presentation. And now we'll just jump right into, we'll look at the policy first, and then I'll show it in action. All right. So we'll start with the policy. So I have my block policy here for all media streams. So when you're doing this, and what I had to do, a lot of these media streams use CDNs, and they'll use different CDNs. So instead of having to add each CDN individually, I had to set an accept rule so I could see what CDNs were being used to add to my application site object. And we'll go into that in a minute. And then you can see up top, I've got my accept rule for the custom media group which is just an application site group. And the reason I did this was because I have a YouTube exception and a Vimeo exception. And instead of listing both in here, I just created a group, put them both in the group. And when that loads, I will show you that. So there's nothing to this other than adding your application site objects. So that's all there is to the groups. So now we'll go and look at an actual application site. So I'm going to start with Vimeo. So when you create, just give it a name. I left the correct category as custom application site. You can change this to whatever you want to change it to. You can give it a description. So you can see that all the preset categories are in here. So this is going to be web browsing based. So that's the services it's going to look at. And then here's your URL list. This is where you'll add the URLs that you're going to allow in your accept rule. And this is what I was talking about with the wildcards. So I've done star.vimeocdn.com. So all the Vimeo uses vimeocdn.com. So instead of listing, f.vimeo, i.vimeo, g.vimeo, all the different ones they use, I just used a wildcard to cover all of them. And this is the specific video I want to allow access to. So this is the URL for that. And again, I did not use any HTTP, HTTPS here. Leave those off. So all you need, it needs to look just like that. So as I said, you can't use regular expressions and normal URLs. So in this case, I'm using normal URLs instead of regular expressions. If you wanted to use regular expressions, you would check this box and change these to regular expressions. So we're gonna close out of that. Of course, once you've got all your stuff, you can change your rule back to drop. We got our accept rule here. So now we'll jump right in. Get the right browser open. And now I'll show you how it works. So we'll start off by just going to vimeo.com. And I'm using just the pre-built certificate for my gateway. So that's why I get that message. But you can see Vimeo is blocked. Now I'm going to go to just that one video that I did allow. And you can see I can get this video and play the video. Now, one thing I got to thinking when I did that, well, what if they change the video number and try to go to a different video? So now I'm going to show you if they do that and try to go to a different video, it's blocked. So they still can't get to any other videos. Go to YouTube and you can see it's blocked. And then the one video I did allow, and it's taking a while. It's worked 5 minutes ago. Well, and it may be with that fonts.googleapis.com. I may have to unblock that as well, or add that to the URL list. Although this just worked 5 minutes ago when me and 15 minutes ago when me and Kyle were running through it, but you get the idea. So just to show you other media streams, they're all blocked still. And that is much it. So are there any questions?
We have one question in the chat. What is the best approach when a site is using a wildcard certificate with possibly many sites utilizing that certificate when not utilizing HTTPS SSL TLS inspection? How should the domain be defined?
I'm not sure that, and I'll have to check to be 100% sure on this, but I don't think it will work if it's not, if you're not doing HTTPS inspection. I'm pretty sure that's a requirement that you do HTTPS inspection. So I'll take that question offline and get a more accurate answer on that one.
Okay. A couple more that came in. With wildcards, should we use them sparingly, and if so, why?
Yes, you definitely want to use wildcards sparingly. For example, you don't want to do star vimeocdn.com and not star.vimeocdn.com, because now somebody could take xxx vimeocdn.com and create a malicious website, and it's going to bypass your block rules. So you definitely want to be careful where you use the wildcards and how often you use them.
Okay. And as far as the wildcards, what types of wildcards are available for use?
So outside of regular expressions, the only wildcard you can use is the asterisk, the star. Question marks, etc., do not work with just the normal URLs. Again, with the normal URLs, it's literal character by character. So if you put a question mark in there, it's going to look for a question mark in the URL. So like I said, the only exception to that for normal URLs is the asterisk key. So that's the only wildcard.
Okay. And last question that came in is, with the policy, there are no issues in creating a policy when identity awareness is used inside the policy. Like sources, a OU of a group or a user or some type of like that.
I'm sorry, Kyle, you completely faded out.
So are there any restrictions when creating a policy when identity awareness is in use? For instance, you're able to utilize a department or OU or computer group from, say, AD as a source.
Yes, absolutely. No, there's no restrictions. You can create your policies just like you normally would. So if you use, user-based policies, identity, yeah, you can still do the same thing with these, the custom applications and sites. So follow the same access rules, which you can do.
Terrific. Last chance for questions. I think that covers pretty much everyone that we had come in.
And do you know who asked that first question? So we can get back to them.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Terrific. Well, Bobby, thank you so much. Really do appreciate the presentation and the demo. As always, really appreciate everybody taking the time to join this morning. Our next presentation will be in 2 weeks. If the invite will come out shortly. In the meantime, you can catch up with your account teams, your local SE or local account, and they can be able to provide this content and a replay for you if you do require it. Other than that,
what? Sorry, I somehow missed one screen of my presentation. I'm not sure why it didn't come up.
okay.
Some requirements for this too.
Okay, if you want to show that.
Yeah, let's see if it shows this time. I don't know how it got skipped over. I knew I was missing something. Can we see that?
Yes.
I'm just going to leave it like this because for some reason, when I did the presentation, it skipped right over that. So the requirements are you do have to have the application control and URL filtering. It's got to be licensed and enabled. HTTPS inspection must be enabled. You got to do categorization of HTTPS sites. And for 80/20 and up, it uses the SNI for matching. Earlier versions will match on the CN, so common name. So those are the requirements for doing this, for using custom application and site objects. Sorry to throw that at the end, but I knew I was missing something from the presentation.
All right. And again, the presentation as well as the recording of the will be made available. If you can obtain those through your local SC or local account rep, they'll be glad to share that with you so that you can have those. Next call will be in 2 weeks. Really appreciate everybody's time this morning. Thank you all for joining, and we'll call this one wrapped. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks.